जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन व्रज जन रंजना यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय श्रीपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतश्री श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस श्री भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय श्रीपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतश्री श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्-भागवतम की जय। श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम की जय। श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय। हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। जगत गुरु शील प्रभुपाद की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 22, The Marriage of Kardama Muni and Devahuti, Text number 12. Udyatasya hi kamasya Udyatasya hi kamasya Udyatasya hi kamasya Prativado na shasyate Prativado na shasyate Prativado na shasyate Api nirmukta sangasya Api nirmukta sangasya Api nirmukta sangasya Kama raktasya Kim punaha Kama raktasya kim punaha Kama raktasya kim punaha Udyatasya hi kamasya Prativado na shasyate Api nirmukta sangasya Kamaraktasya kim punaha Udyatasya hi kamasya prativado na shasyate api nirmukta sangasya kamaraktasya kim punaha. Udyatasya hi kamasya prativado na shasyate api nirmukta sangasya kamaraktasya kim punaha. Udyatasya, which has come of itself. He, in fact, kamasya, of material desire. Prativadaha, the denial. Na, not. Shasyate, to be praised. Api, even. Nirmukta, of one who is free. Sangasya, from attachment. Kama, to sensual pleasures. Raktasya, of one addicted. Kim punaha, how much less. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. To deny an offering that has come of itself is not commendable, even for one absolutely free from all attachment, much less one addicted to sensual pleasure. Kindly repeat. To deny an offering that has come of itself is not commendable, even for one absolutely free from all attachment, much less one addicted to sensual pleasure. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In material life, everyone is desirous of sense gratification. Therefore, a person who gets an object of sense gratification without endeavor should not refuse to accept it. Kardama Muni was not meant for sense gratification, yet he aspired to marry and prayed to the Lord for a suitable wife. This was known to Swayambhuva Manu. He indirectly convinced Kardama Muni, "You desire a suitable wife like my daughter, and she is now present before you. You should not reject the fulfillment of your prayer. You should accept my daughter." We'll read text 13 also, because the text and the purport are somewhat similar to text 12. Ya udyatam anadritya khinasham abhiyachate kshiyate tadyashah svitam manascha vajnaya hataha. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. One who rejects an offering that comes of its own accord, but later begs a boon from a miser, thus loses his widespread reputation, and his pride is humbled by the neglectful behavior of others. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The general procedure of Vedic marriage is that a father offers his daughter to a suitable boy. That is a very respectable marriage. A boy should not go to the girl's father and ask for the hand of his daughter in marriage. That is considered to be humbling one's respectable position. Swayambhuva Manu wanted to convince Kardama Muni since he knew that the sage wanted to marry a suitable girl. I am offering just such a suitable wife. Do not reject the offer, or else, because you are in need of a wife, you will have to ask for such a wife from someone else who may not behave with you so well. In that case, your position will be humbled. Another feature of this incident is that Swayambhuva Manu was the emperor, but he went to offer his qualified daughter to a poor Brahmana. Kardama Muni had no worldly possessions. He was a hermit living in the forest, but he was advanced in culture. Therefore, in offering one's daughter to a person, the culture and quality are counted as prominent, not wealth or any other material consideration. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Deenataranam. This is an interesting injunction from the Vedic culture that Swayambhuva Manu is bringing up. He is saying, Udyatasya hi kamasya prativado na shasyate. To deny an offering that has come of itself is not commendable. Not commendable for whom? Not kamaraktasya. Even for abhinirmukta sangasya, even for a person who is detached, who is absolutely free from all attachment, even for such a person, if there is an opportunity or there is an offering of sense enjoyment given to that person on its own accord, it is not commendable to refuse it. Udyatasya, the kamasya udyatasya, the object of sense gratification is provided to the person on its own accord, not that the person has endeavored for it. Generally in this material world what we see is people are always constantly engaged in the hard work, hard endeavor in order to be able to get the objects of sense gratification. But for a person who is detached, who is nirmukta sangasya, who is detached from this material world, he is not interested in material sense gratification. He is not endeavoring for material sense gratification. He is not working hard to obtain the objects of the senses. So what is the nirmukta sangha doing? Is he sitting idly, inactive? Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita that nahi jatu tishtatya karma krit. Nature of the living entity is to be active. Nobody can sit quietly even for a moment. Nahi jatu, not even a second, a living entity can remain inactive. That is the nature of a living entity, of a soul. And sharira yatra apite na prasiddhyet akarmanaha. If we sit idly, Krishna says, if we sit idly without doing any work, then sharira yatra apinate prasiddhyed. You will not even be able to maintain your body. Ultimately, we are in this material world. We are inextricably intertwined with the body, with the material body. That's our current situation. So a Nirmukta Sangha, one who is detached from this material world, may be interested in advancing spiritually. But even for that advancement in spiritual life, the person is dependent on the material body. He has to execute the yoga practices with the material body only. Then only he will be able to advance spiritually. So, the person, even in Nirmukta Sangha, even a person who is detached, who is renounced, has an interest, has a necessity to take care of the body, to take care of the bodily necessities, because the body is essential for spiritual practice, for yoga to be able to advance spiritually. Currently, our most important spiritual practice in Kali Yuga is to chant the holy name of Krishna, to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. In our current state, we have to chant that Hare Krishna with our material tongue only. We have to vibrate the holy name with our material tongue, and we have to receive that holy name with our material ear. We cannot think of, okay, this material body, this body is all material, I am transcendental, I am spiritual, so I will chant the holy name on the spiritual platform. I don't want this material body. I cannot reject. Then I will not be able to chant, because my spiritual senses have still not awakened. They are dormant. Therefore, in my current condition, I have to take the help of the material body and execute the spiritual progress to become free from the material body. That is the current situation we are all in. Therefore, Krishna says, if a spiritualist, because he is renounced, if he thinks that I am a renounced person, I don't need to do any material activity, so let me sit idly, then he will not be even able to maintain his own body. And where is the question of executing spiritual activities? Therefore, even a Nirmukta Sangha, even a person who is renounced, does have a requirement of taking care of the body. Now, such taking care of the body has to be done in a restricted way, in a planned way. Unlike a person who is not interested in spiritual life, he unrestrictedly engages in sense gratification. Sense gratification is the goal of his life. So day and night he will work hard for it. But a person who is a spiritualist, who is renounced, who is detached from this material world, he has no business engaging in sense gratification. So then, what will he do? He will engage in activities which are prescribed for him in the Vedas for a spiritualist. Now, in such activity, when one is engaged in any activity, there will be some outcome of that activity. There will be some result. As we say in Newton's law, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Some reaction has to come. You cannot avoid, you cannot do anything which has no reaction. So some result will come. Now, in the performance of your duty, whatever result comes, that such kind of result is not denied by a spiritualist, by a renounced person. Not only that, in the case of Kardama Muni, we can see how he engaged in austerities to please the Supreme Lord. So to please the Supreme Lord, he engaged in activities. Why? Because he had a duty to perform. The duty was to carry out the instructions of his father and natural spiritual master, Brahmaji. Brahmaji told him that his duty is to create progeny. So therefore, to be able to carry out the duty properly, he meditated upon the Supreme Lord. Now, the result of that activity, he engaged in a spiritual activity. He engaged in meditating upon Vishnu. But what was the result of that? Result of that activity was that he got Devahuti as his wife. Now, to get Devahuti as his wife, he did not execute any separate endeavor. He did not go searching. Let me know. Now I have pleased Vishnu. Vishnu has blessed me that I will get a suitable wife. So let me go out and search. Where will I get such a wife? He did not do anything. He continued his spiritual activities in his ashram. Of its own accord, Swayambhuva Manu came to offer his daughter Devahuti to Kardama Muni. And therefore, he is mentioning, Swayambhuva Manu is mentioning, that when an object has been, when a fruit is given to a person, even though he may be renounced, when it has come of its own accord, he will not say no. It is not commendable for a person to say no. Forget about a sense gratifier. Sense gratifier though is working hard day and night to engage in sense gratification. For him, if somebody out of the blue comes and gives something out of his own accord without his endeavoring for it, why will he say no? He will only become more and more happy. Whereas, for a renounced person, that object of sense gratification is not giving him any joy, nor is it giving him any distress. So he is not interested in that. But still, when it has come of its own accord, he should not say no. He should not deny. This is the Vedic injunction. Why? Because in the future, if some requirement arises for the execution of the spiritual activities, that person will have to then go searching and ask and beg from somebody, because a spiritualist, a renounced person, is not engaged in material activities. So he is not earning money. He is not having a position in society to be able to, okay, now today I require some ghee for conducting my sacrifice. Let me go and purchase it and bring it. A spiritualist cannot do that. He suddenly finds ghee is over, he has to go and beg someone. Today I have to do my yajna, please give me this one. So, for a person, even a renounced person to be able to execute his duties, sometimes some things are required. So when something has come of its own accord, if he says, no, I don't need it now, tomorrow, if the need arises, he will have to go and beg someone, which will be diminishing his position. Somebody is coming and giving you something, you receive it, there is certain dignity in that. You go and ask somebody, and that somebody gives you in charity, then what happens? Then you are diminishing your own position. Therefore, Swayambhuva Manu is telling Kardama Muni, today my daughter I brought, she is qualified, she is not unqualified, she is coming from a great family, and also in her heart, she desires to marry you with all these favorable conditions. You should accept her. If you don't accept her, if you reject her on some grounds, no, I am a Brahmana, you are a Kshatriya, or any such grounds, if you reject her, then tomorrow, anyway you need a wife to execute the duty which has been given to you by your father Brahmaji, then you will have to go and search out and ask somebody for their daughter, then you will be diminishing your position. You are a highly respected person. You should not be going around asking anybody for anything. People should come and give you. So I have come here myself to offer my daughter to you. Now, we have to understand one thing, that this principle that Swayambhuva Manu is explaining to Kardama Muni may be a material principle. That for a spiritualist, for a person in the renounced order of life, something comes of its own accord, he should not say no to it. So, in the Bhagavad-gita, actually Krishna explains this principle in the 6th chapter. In the 16th verse, Krishna says, Natyasnatastu yogosti na chaikantam anasnataha na chati swapnashilasya jagarato naivacharjuna. Krishna says, there is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi, O Arjuna, if one eats too much, if one engages in too much sense gratification, or eats too little. If he does not take care of the body sufficiently also, there is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi. Sleeps too much or does not sleep enough. Too much of something or too less of something, either of it is not good for yoga practice. In the next verse, Krishna, he explains the famous words, Yuktahara viharasya Yukta cheshtasya karmasu Yukta swapnavabodhasya Yogo bhavati dukkhaha. Krishna says, he who is temperate in his habits of eating, sleeping, working and recreation, even a Mukta Sangha requires recreation, can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. So, here also Krishna is explaining the same principle which Swayambhuva Manu explained to Kardama Muni, which is that a yogi should not think, now I am a yogi, I am in the renounced order of life, so let me stop eating, let me stop sleeping, let me not have, no recreation I should have. Very strictly I should sit, no jokes, no laughing, no humor. That's not the way a yogi is. Yogi is temperate in all its eating, sleeping, everything. Whatever is required to keep the body going well, he will accept in such a way that his execution of his spiritual activities go on in an unobstructed way, in a peaceful way. That is how a yogi works. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu also, Srila Rupa Goswami explains the same principle. He says, Vyavahareshu Sarveshu Yavadarthanu Vartita. Actually, this principle, what it means is, in all one's activities, one should accept whatever is required. Yavad Arthanu Vartita. To the extent whatever is required, Vyavahareshu Sarveshu, in all of one's activities, one should accept whatever is required, not artificially try to say, no, I am a yogi, even though I am hungry, I will not eat. One should not be like that. To the extent one is hungry, one should eat. Prabhupada gives the example, if one has a body like an elephant, then one should eat like an elephant. And if one thinks, no, I am a yogi, I should eat like an ant, then what will happen? He will not be able to, he will not have the sufficient energy to be able to execute his duties. And if one's body is like an ant, and one thinks prasadam is very nice, very tasty, let me eat 10 rasgullas, what will happen? The guy will have indigestion, he will fall sick. Even then also he will not be able to carry on his duties. So, just like Bhima Sena is spoken of in the Bhagavad-gita as Vrikodara, means he is a voracious eater. So Prabhupada explains that he ate voraciously, but Bhima Karma, his activities are also like that. He killed Rakshasas like Hidimba and all barehanded. So he ate voraciously, but he acted also voraciously. In a very wonderful ways he acted. So according to one's bodily constitution, one has to understand, this is the kind of diet I need, this is the kind of sleep I need, this is the kind of recreation I need. Accordingly, one has to conduct oneself. So, in the 64 items of devotional service, in the angas of devotional service, angas means the limbs of devotional service, meaning these are the activities by engaging in which the doors of bhakti get opened up. Srila Rupa Goswami explains 64 such items. One of them is this principle, Vyavahareshu Sarveshu Yavadarthanu Vartita. This is one of the angas of bhakti which one has to practice to be able to open the doors of bhakti, to be able to open the doors of love for Krishna in our life. And to explain this principle, Srila Rupa Goswami quotes the Naradiya Pancharatra. He says, in the Naradiya Pancharatra it is stated, Yavata Syat Swanirvahaha Swikuryat Tavad Arthavit Adhikye Nyunatayam Cha Chyavate Paramarthataha. So he says, according to the Naradiya Pancharatra, Yavad Syat Swanirvahaha. Swanirvaha, it is explained that Swanirvaha refers to Swaswa Bhakti Nirvaha. For the execution of one's devotional service, Swanirvaha does not mean that for the execution of my sense gratificatory activities. Swanirvaha means Swaswa Bhakti Nirvaha. For the execution of one's devotional service, Yavata Syat, whatever is required, Swikuryat, one should accept. Such a person is called Arthavit. Arthavit means, Artha means some purpose, some result you want to achieve. Arthavit means one who understood the purpose of his activities, which is to achieve Krishna Prema. One who has really understood, one who is really Arthavit, one who has understood the purpose of his activities, he should accept things as much as is required. We should not become stuck up in some rituals or in some sort of show and prestige. Oh, I am a renounced person, I should not accept, I should not eat, I will not accept money. Why? Because I am a sannyasi. if one becomes stuck up in such externals, instead of understanding the purpose of one's taking sannyas or one becoming renounced, then one will not be able to assess what is to be accepted and what is to be rejected. So an arthavita person is a person who understands the purpose of my activities. He is not attached simply to doing the activities blindly as some ritual, as a blind ritual. No. So an arthavit, a person who has understood the purpose of his activities, what he will do, yavata syat swanirvaha svikuriyat. He will accept whatever is required for the execution of his devotional activities. Adikye nyunatayam cha. Adikya, accepting too much, more than what is required, or nyunatayam, accepting less than whatever is required. Chavate paramartataha. It will lead to one's deviation from the path of spirituality. That means one bhakti will get destroyed if one endeavors to gain more than what is required for one's devotional service, and one will lose one's devotional service if one tries to manage with less than whatever is required also. So in both cases it will affect bhakti negatively. Why? Because if one accepts more than what is required, what will happen? One's senses will become uncontrolled and one will become a sense gratifier. Then one will start running after the objects of the senses. Bhakti will be lost. On the other hand, if I accept less than what I need, what is the problem? So if engaging in sense gratification is going to blind me towards spirituality, so let me completely stop sense gratification. No. Then if I don't eat at all, then Prabhupada gives the example. If one eats more, what happens? The tongue, the belly and the genitals are in the same straight line. So what happens? If one tries to satisfy the tongue too much, the stomach will start demanding, then we'll have to satisfy the stomach. And if you overdo the filling the stomach, what happens is the genitals will start demanding sex. And so one will not be able to follow the path of spirituality. One's mind will always be agitated by thoughts of the opposite sex. So for a spiritualist, he has to absorb his mind in thinking of Krishna. So this is the effect of overeating. So eating is the cause of lusty desires. Let me stop eating altogether. If you think like that, what will happen? Actually, your mind will not get absorbed in Krishna. The opposite will happen. Why? Because we have to understand there is something known as Shushka Vairagya and there is something known as Yukta Vairagya. Shushka Vairagya means dry renunciation. So if one accepts objects of the senses much lesser than what it is actually required to keep the body and soul together, then what will happen is it will result in dry renunciation, Shushka Vairagya, which will harden the heart and close the doors of bhakti. The heart has to melt, has to become soft in the love for Krishna. That will not happen if one engages in activities of Shushka Vairagya. That is why yogis and jnanis who engage in severe austerities, they do not get attracted to the pastimes of Krishna. They think, no, Krishna's pastimes, these are all material. These are all not for us. We are advanced beyond this. So why such thinking? Why that attraction for Krishna's pastimes and Krishna's holy name does not come? Because Krishna's holy name is so sweet. Once if Krishna's holy name has entered somebody's ear and through the ear it has entered the heart, that person will no longer be attracted to anything else. Once one has heard even a drop of Krishna's wonderful pastimes, after that he will not be able to remain attracted to anything else in this world. Shukadeva Goswami was such an elevated soul. Right from being in the womb of the mother, he was liberated. So much so that when he took birth, he walked away from the house without even looking at his father and mother. He was so renounced. Still, when that same Shukadeva Goswami, when he heard that verse from the Srimad-Bhagavatam, Barha Pidam Natavaravapuhu Karnayoho Karnikaram, when he heard that description of Krishna, wonderful, beautiful form of Krishna, with a peacock feather on his head, and the Karnikara flower on his ears, and whose every step is like a wonderful dancer, surrounded by his wonderful Gopa friends, and being glorified by them, he is entering the forest of Vrindavan. Vrindaranyam Swapadaramanam, and by his lotus steps, every step he is keeping on the Mother Earth is erupting in joy. That wonderful Krishna who is wearing the brilliant golden silk cloth, and Randran Venor, Adarasudayapurayan, with the nectar emanating from his lips, he is filling the holes of the flute. When Shukadeva Goswami heard this, he stopped dead in his tracks. And he turned around and told Vyasadeva that I want to hear more. So even one verse of the Bhagavatam can turn the mind of a great monist. That is what happened with Shukadeva Goswami. But then there are so many impersonalists, yogis, they are so severe and so advanced in all their austerities. Their kind of austerities we will not be able to perform. But when they hear about Krishna, what happens? Their heart does not melt. Why? Because their heart has become hardened by Shushka Vairagya. And this Shushka Vairagya comes when we accept objects of the senses much less than what is actually required to keep the body and soul together. Therefore, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu states, the principle is Vyavahareshu Sarveshu, in all our activities, Yavadarthanu Vartita. We should accept whatever is required to keep our body and soul together, neither more nor less. Adikye nyunatayam cha chavate paramartataha. If we accept more or we accept less, it will be detrimental to our devotional service. Now, this may be a material principle, to accept the objects of sense gratification as much as is required. Like he is saying here, even for a nirmukta sangasya, to accept an object of sense gratification which has come of its own accord, to reject it is not commendable. This is what Swayambhu Manu said. Now going further, for a bhakti yogi, there is an even more higher step than this. There is an even more higher principle than this, which is explained again by Srila Rupa Goswami in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. What is that? Anasaktasya vishayan yatharham upayunjataha nirbande krishna sambande yuktam vairagyam uchyate. For a nirmukta sangha, for a vairagi, to accept an object of sense gratification which has come of its own accord is acceptable. But for a yukta vairagi, he will not accept anything for his sense gratification. So what does he do? If some object of sense gratification comes of its own accord to him, what will you do? Anasaktasya vishayan. He is not attached to satisfying his senses. On the other hand, what he will do? Yatharham upayunjataha. He will take that object of sense gratification, he will not use it for himself. Unlike a nirmukta sangha, object of sense gratification has come of its own accord, he will accept it. Okay, this is for me, he will take it. But a bhakti yogi, what he will do? He will take it. He will not use it for himself. Yatharham upayunjataha. He will engage it in Krishna's service. Somebody comes and gives some very nice basmati rice to us. What we will do? Okay, it has come of its own accord. Let me cook and eat. No. Oh, beautiful basmati rice has come. Let me cook pushpana for Krishna. This is what a devotee does. So by doing that, of course, a devotee's requirements of the bodily necessities are not denied. Because by serving Krishna, Krishna will take care of the devotee. Whatever bodily necessity is required for the devotee, the Krishna will give. When the devotee cooks nice foodstuffs and offers it to Krishna, Krishna will not think, oh, nice pushpana today, let me eat everything. No, Krishna will honor that. Krishna will taste it. But Krishna sees, my devotee also needs this. So he will give his prasadam. He will leave behind whatever you have cooked and offered to Krishna. Krishna will leave behind the entire thing for the devotee. You see Krishna's mercy. You see Krishna's love. Although Krishna can eat the whole thing, but still he will eat it. At the same time, he will leave behind the entire thing what you are offered for the devotee. This is Krishna's love for us. More than a devotee is not interested about maintaining his own body. More than the devotee, Krishna is interested in maintaining the devotee. So that is why Goptritve Varanam, we have left our maintenance in the hands of Krishna. Krishna, however you want to maintain, you maintain. You want to give me nice Krishna prasadam, you give. Otherwise, whatever is available, I will cook and offer. Whatever you can, you give me. So devotee is not demanding anything from Krishna, but Krishna will take care of everything. So you see, Yukta Vairagi, a devotee, is working on an even higher principle. He will accept anything. Somebody comes and gives money, we will not say no. Somebody comes and gives some rice or atta or some vegetables or fruits or anything somebody comes and gives, we will not say no. Everything we'll find somehow or the other we can use in Krishna's service. So when a devotee accepts anything, in his mind it's not running, somehow by some arrangement of providence, something has come for my sense gratification, very nice. Now I can eat basmati chawal. Devotee doesn't think like that. So a devotee works on a much higher principle. So these are, some of the wonderful lessons we get to learn from the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Not to engage in Shushka Vairagya, but to engage in Yukta Vairagya. And when we are talking about the conversation between Kardama Muni and Swayambhuva Manu, one of the things that Swayambhuva Manu is saying, that a boy should not go to the girl's father to ask for the hand. It is not respectable. Girl's father should go and meet the boy. So this is not some sort of misogyny, that women are less important or something like that. The point is that in those days, in the Vedic culture, a girl's father would always look for a highly qualified boy for to accept the hand of his daughter. Like in the last sentence of the purport, Prabhupada is saying, therefore in offering one's daughter to a person, the culture and quality are counted as prominent, not wealth or any other material consideration. Today's world, what happens? When the girl side, they are looking at an alliance, first thing they will ask, where is the boy working? What is his salary? So first thing is money. After that, everything else comes. They don't inquire whether this boy has any drinking habit. That though is there with everyone. Does he smoke? Nobody asks. That though is there with everyone. Sometimes some little bit drugs also chalta hai. As long as he doesn't come home and beat the girl, no problem. So people are not bothered about culture, about character and all that. As long as he's earning good money, no problem. Whereas in the olden days, it was not like that. Like you see, Swayambhuva Manu, the emperor, he is coming with his daughter and handing over to a poor rishi living in the forest in some small hermitage cottage made up of hay and thatched roof and having mud flooring and such other things. Whereas emperor means he will be living in royal opulence in the palace. But he is not considering what is the monetary capability, what is the financial status of my future son-in-law. He is thinking, what is the character? So, in those days, because the responsibility for a daughter, for the father towards the daughter was so high, that he will always think of finding a very highly, much more qualified than my daughter. A father will always think of finding a groom who is much more qualified than my daughter. So, if we are looking for a more qualified person, then we have to go to the doorstep of that person. If somebody is coming to my doorstep, that person has to be less qualified than me. Then only he will come to me. This is a material principle. Therefore, in the olden times, it is said that a respectable marriage means the girl's father has to come to see the boy. That means the boy is of much higher qualification and character than the girl's side. That is a respectable thing for a boy. If the boy has to go and ask somebody's hand, that means he is not qualified for the girl. So very likely that he will get rejected. So just like we see even in the case of Saubhari Muni, After so many years, 40,000 years of penance under the water, when he came out and he wanted to marry someone, he went to the Mandata, the king, and asked for the hand of his daughter. Now the king saw, Mandata saw, this Rishi is not suited for to marry any of my daughters. So what to do? But I don't want to say no also to him. So he said, you go and ask any of my daughters, anyone wants to marry you, you can marry her. That's another way of saying no. So, not directly saying no. Of course, later Saubhari Muni also displayed his yogic opulence. That's a different thing. But, that kind of situation, Swayambhu Manu is saying, Kardama Muni, you should not get into. So, I have come myself. So, you please accept. So, we have to, these are the kind of, the spirit behind all such instructions given in the Vedas. Not that who is higher or superior, but according to certain desires of the different people, there are different things which are enjoined in the Shastras. From that perspective, we have to see and understand these things. So, I will stop here. If there are any questions or comments, we can discuss. Yes, please. No. So, prasadam is very tasty. Sometimes instead of yuktahara vihara, Prabhupada said, only half your stomach you should fill with prasadam, 1/4 with water, 1/4 you should leave for air. But when we honor, we will not only fill half, we'll not even 3/4, not even full. Stomach will be full, the gut will be full up to the throat. Until then we'll eat. After that we'll realize, I'm supposed to eat half stomach. Isn't it? So what happens in those circumstances? Actually, you see, Prabhupada says that a yogi, bhakti yogi should be very careful about how much he eats, how much he sleeps. Everything has to be temperate. These are unavoidable principles it's given in the Bhagavad-gita and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and Prabhupada himself has given. So these are inviolable principles. But then what happens is, we are all sadhakas. We are all not accomplished yogis. We are not yoga, what is that? Yoga Ruda. We are yoga Arurukshu. We are still climbing the ladder of yoga. So in such circumstances, there are little concessions sometimes. Okay, some feast is there, some festival is there. Some little bit you can indulge yourself. That may harm your body to a little extent, but spiritually, because it is Krishna Prasadam, it will act transcendentally and it will purify us. Gradually, what will come is, we will come to a situation where we will be able to control our senses and take up as much as is required. So that stage will come. Artificially, we cannot try to imitate. So, we have to understand our position, and accordingly, we have to follow the things. Srila Prabhupada mentions in one place, actually, because current human civilization, everybody is on the animalistic level. We are living in an animalistic civilization. The olden times, like we are seeing the discussion between Kardama Muni and Swayambhu Manu and all that, the civilization was completely different. There were great rishis, yogis, highly advanced people who are in full control of their senses. Even Swayambhu Manu himself, although he is an emperor, he is also no less, he is a Raja Rishi. He is a kingly sage, means he is also very much in control of his senses. So, in society, that was the accepted norm at that time. Today, all of us are brought up, trained and educated in the culture of how to engage in unrestricted sense enjoyment. In the olden ages, everybody would be brought up in the culture and training and education, how to control the senses. Today, the education, the training, the culture, the propaganda is enjoy unrestricted senses. So, this is the civilization of the animals. Animals live like that. Animals, you cannot go and impose any restrictions. You have to eat only half and all that. Whatever it can eat, it will eat. You cannot stop it. So, that kind of humans also have now reduced to that kind of animal civilization. So, because we are trained to be like animals, Prabhupada says, only eating. So, you go on eating like an animal, eating Krishna Prasadam, one day you will become self-realized. So, we have to remember these injunctions. We should endeavor to follow the instructions. But sometimes due to some weakness, we may not be able to follow. Too much my tongue is demanding, okay, satisfy with Krishna Prasadam. And gradually a time will come when the tongue will also come under control, and we will be able to follow the Yuktahara Vihara principle. It will eventually come to that. We should endeavor, but due to some weakness, if we are not able to follow, as long as it is Krishna Prasadam, it's not harmful in our spiritual life in the long term. That we have to understand. Because right now we don't even know how to honor Prasadam. That's also the reality. If you are honoring Prasadam, then it's a different thing. Then Yuktahara principle will get automatically followed. Nobody has to tell you. You understand? But in our current, this one, what happens? We are not honoring Prasadam. We are actually attacking Prasadam. Moment we see something, okay, bring. You know, where is thought of Krishna, that Krishna has stated this is the remnant of Krishna? Where is all that? In fact, somebody comes and serves prasadam on the plate, and we'll be about to start, somebody will start. What? Sharira Vidyajal. Oh my God. Now I have to wait for a few more seconds until I finish. So while Sharira Vidyajal is going on, what is happening? Your meditation is not on Sharira Vidyajal. Your meditation is, oh, what is going to be this? What is the sabji? What is, your mind is somewhere else. Your tongue is automatically, you are chanting something. So all these things are our current stage. But gradually, if we apply the principles of soulful japa, and soulfully we chant Sharira Vidyajal also, then when you honor Prasadam also, that also you do soulfully, you practice, slowly it will come. Just like while chanting also, our 16 malas, when we are trying to chant, we are trying to chant soulfully, but mind will go here, there and all, isn't it? But we keep trying. Similarly, when you are honoring Prasadam also, try to soulfully honor. But sometimes, the tongue will overtake, the stomach will overtake, all that will happen. But you keep trying, slowly, your degree of soulful honoring of the prasadam will also increase. And then gradually you will be able to, automatically Yuktahara Vihara will follow. You don't have to separately endeavor for it. Only thing is, everything, whatever devotional activity you do it soulfully, other principles will automatically follow. Is that okay? Any other question or comment? We'll stop here then. Grantharaj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.